Hi, my name is Lana Kularajah. I am currently a Senior HR Business Partner at Transform Aid International. Transform Aid International is an international aid and development agency. They primarily do work in Asia, the Pacific and Africa, and they focus on community development, child-centred community development, and also disaster management. And a big part of their work in Australia is actually advocacy, so empowering people and educating people to understand social justice issues and to fight for them. Prior to working at Transform Aid International, I was working for Wesley Mission, a community services organisation that works in the state of New South Wales. So there I was a generalist HR officer, and I had the opportunity to be involved in many different types of projects working across the organisation. My preference has always been to stay in the not-for-profit sector and to work for organisations that really make a difference in the community. And yeah, it's quite interesting, quite different, I would imagine, to working for a commercial organisation, but I do enjoy it, and it's great to work with people who are motivated by doing good, and yeah, that makes a HR person's job a lot easier if everyone's on the same page. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I wanted to work with people. I've always enjoyed talking and listening to people, and I also like structure and systems. So I decided to do a Bachelor of Commerce and Psychology. So I did a double degree, and I was really interested in psychology, so that was kind of my interest area, and I thought HR would be a good practical way to put my people skills into use in more of a business context. And I was always passionate about the not-for-profit sector, and I always knew I wanted to put my skills to use to help the community and to help society. Leadership development can often try to be all things to all people. So by this I mean it tries to cover hard skills, so managing budgets, managing compliance and regulations, technical expertise, as well as soft skills, so emotional intelligence, problem solving, strategic thinking, etc. In its attempt to be all things to all people, sometimes it can miss the mark. It sometimes can not take into account what people's strengths are, so somebody who may be very good at casting a vision but not as good as executing it, or someone who's very good at the execution but not as good as coming up with the strategy. Leadership development needs to take into account people's natural abilities and their strengths, and work towards filling in those gaps, and perhaps looking at even different models of leadership to help make the leadership team a success in the organisation. Some of the challenges around this, around a leadership development program, can include time and commitment of either from the organisation's perspective of releasing staff to participate in programs and learning opportunities, or from the individual's perspective, being able to commit time, perhaps even outside of work hours, to developing themselves. So that can be quite a significant challenge. Another challenge, particularly in the not-for-profit sector, is budget. So when deciding on where to invest money, trying to convince senior leadership that investing in people and investing in leadership development can be tricky, particularly when budgets are tight. And I guess the other challenge would be ensuring that leadership development is linked to organisational strategy and is not just a tick-the-box exercise. People can see through it if it is a tick the box exercise, and they can often feel disillusioned or disengaged as a result of being put in a program that really has no end goal or no outcome for them. So they would be the biggest challenges that I would say. I think one of the biggest ways that leadership development within an organisation can support women and minorities to get into leadership positions is perhaps by rethinking the definition of leadership. Where I currently work, we had a situation where we had an all-male leadership team, and we identified the need to have more women, in particular at the table. So what we did was we collapsed the existing management group, and we broadened the leadership group to include identified leaders as well as people of influence. So people who are not necessarily managing staff, but people who had significant roles within the teams or organisation, who would be able to contribute a great deal to leadership discussions. So we broadened it to a leadership group as opposed to a management group. And this really has enabled the organisation to have more voices at the table, and has in a way forced the existing managers as well as the organisation as a whole to look at leadership in a more broader context than just the traditional people managers. Our leadership development program, I think, was a success in that regard. We were able to then have more people at the table, particularly a lot more women. And actually at the end of the program we had a number of women who were then promoted to managers, which was fantastic from our perspective. Other things to consider to support women and minority groups into leadership positions would be looking at trying to accommodate their needs. So oftentimes women may be part-time, and leadership programs can be quite intensive with regards to time. So perhaps finding other flexible ways of enabling them to participate in leadership development. So including online learning, or doing sessions via Skype, or providing them with more creative or innovative ways to develop their skills. That's not just the traditional sitting in a classroom doing a structured formal course, and it could also just be shadowing, mentoring programs, etc. Again, where I was working, we were able to implement a mentoring program for women. We sourced 2 senior women who were external to the organisation, who had significant leadership experience, and we paired them up with the women who were identified as potential leaders, and we gave them the opportunity to provide advice and support outside of the organisation to help them with their career goals. And this mentoring program actually arose as a result of the identified gap in our organisation that we didn't have enough women leaders. So that was a really good opportunity for those women, and everyone who participated really benefited a lot from that program. So I think just to sort of sum up that, having creative or innovative ways of developing leaders, and perhaps rethinking the definition of what leadership is, and considering broadening that definition to allow more people to the table. My biggest advice would be to get experience while you're studying. So either as a casual employee or even a HR volunteer somewhere. This will really help you to start putting together the nuts and bolts of what it means to work in a HR department. You'll learn some basic fundamentals of HR processes and systems, and this will really set you up well for when you start looking for permanent work. My other advice would be to be prepared to do admin work. HR has a lot of administration. Working from the ground up is the only way really to establish a really solid career in HR. So be prepared to do some of the maybe less exciting aspects like letters of offer, managing the databases and things like that. And then that will really give you a good foundation for what you might want to do later on.